Moving right along, we have 8th place Wesley Bittner on the Air Jiro deck that he's been working on, frankly, the entire time, right? We had one of the best interviews we've had in his Top Cuts match on day 2. He gave a lot of insight about the deck, right? We talked about instant explosive release, which is something I've been kind of iffy on, but has performed very well here at the HLC. And, you know, not to go without saying, but I'm really glad I caught the Drowning in Resentment interaction, but I'm more glad that it didn't cost him the win. But it looks like we're going to go over this deck really quick because we've seen a lot of the same Jiro stuff, except we're seeing the Sound Blast count go up, right? There's no Pillar Swing in this deck. We only have 3 Home Run Comet. We do have the Electric Jolt. Love to see that. Wesley was on the top half of the bracket, if I'm not mistaken, because we only have the 4 season the advantage. Let me double check that, because yeah, he was 13th seed, so he was expecting to go first, but no Ready Get Set Go, just in case in the later rounds we ran into a higher seed. So that one's pretty interesting. But we do have this interaction for the Electric Jolt that some of the Jiros have passed over. No 3 diffs again, only 1 Wealthy Aspirations. Really trying to maximize the value of all cards that we draw. We're seeing the 2 successful results. This is very interesting to me. This is a card I passed up a lot because I just feel like Requesting does a lot of the same job, but we're seeing different times where it really matters the difference between a card that can be ready and ready something else versus a card that is already committed and can ready itself. And of course, having that Deadlock threat as some kind of a backup is nice. Speaking of Deadlock threats, we have Observant Student, which kind of only really goes with having instant explosive release go off as far as the Deadlock, but having a +1 low, super important in this format with all these 1.3 millions going around. E-Flip, look at the top card of the deck. Very, very nice to have that. So very interesting stuff. 4 mainstream, 4 6 checks, only 3 basic training. I have to rescind my comments. The world champion only runs 3 as well, so I guess 3 is the correct number, but I'd really like to see a 4 of in this deck specifically, and then we've got 3 of the other 0 diffs. So the biggest notes about this deck is no Pillar Swing, no 1.3 million volts. This deck has no 5 diffs whatsoever. But we look at the sideboard, and that's where all these cards are. This is super interesting to me. I'm going to call this the Bag of Tricks Jiro, because it doesn't have some of those really big heavy hitters you might expect for the main board. It's playing it really safe, has more 3 diffs than a lot of decks do. We're still not maxed out on instant explosive release even through the sideboard, but you know, I dig this approach to deck building. I wish I had known about this at the event and asked him, or I guess I was allowed to talk to him about his sideboard, because this is very, very cool. I'm wondering if it's just an up to a feeling thing, if he didn't have any other plans for the sideboard. It doesn't seem like he has any idea, like any plans, I should say, about interacting with the opponent. We have our Speed Hate, which helps us look at our checks, but Wesley is all about playing this deck as an uninteractable aggro deck that jumps on top of you, you know, just has basically unbeatable strings because of this lower difficulty curve. You know, because of the more amplified Sound Blast in the main board, we're definitely going to have really great extension on our turns. Yeah, this is just a really cool take on Jiro, and I mean, I feel like this is like a great deck for when you want to make sure that you have a chance to poke and to pivot. This is a really good pivot Jiro, because I mean, I won a huge game against Clinton Thomas all the way back at the first provisional because he checked a 2 while playing a Pillar Swing, and he just had to fail the attack and end his turn. He had no pivot option. He had no way out. So this has a much safer like entry barrier. This has much safer pokes. This has, you know, much more guaranteed ways to get momentum. You know, no gravity lift, but again, we're on the safer poke kind of a train. So really cool to see this deck in action. No surprise that it went super far, and maybe this is the play, guys. Maybe we run out all the safer, lower difficulty attacks, and then once our opponent starts to see that, oh, maybe we don't have Pillar Swing, maybe Indiscriminate Shock's not a threat, that's when we hit them games 2 and 3 with the really, really big dunks. So Yeah, this is a really interesting take on a character that we thought was solved, but it's telling me that you can pretty much just run any charge lineup with Jiro and get tons of production for her. So very, very good, very good aggressive attack lineup, very safe attack lineup. Love this a lot. So congratulations to Wesley Bittner. He had an awesome run for the first year of My Hero Academia CCG. He has been committed to really working out this character, you know, really putting in the time and effort to get the ratios right, play it the way he wants to, and his hard work definitely paid off with an 8th place finish. So congratulations to Wesley Bittner. I definitely expect to see you at more events in the future, and hopefully we'll see you at the next HLC.